All right, now I want to talk to everybody about my experiences so far with Odin, the All-Father from the Norse current. There's a lot. There's a lot that happened very quickly. One thing I'll say about the Norse uh, that I noticed is that they are they're more in your face when you call upon them, uh, especially when you've been accepted by them. I was not used to the intensity of my initiation experience with Odin. It was awesome, don't get me wrong. I went from being a Christian, growing up as a Christian, and saying, praising some god off somewhere and not getting, obviously any visitations or anything like that, like kind of just getting a bone thrown here and there. Here you go, kid. Keep going. To Odin rolling out the red carpet for me, so to speak. Okay, so where do I begin with this? So, after years in meditation and getting into magic and doing my daily rituals, at one point, my first time with Odin, where he reached out to me, was when I needed healing. And at that period in my life, I was trying to go too far too fast with the Kundalini and the chakra work. And I'm going to warn everybody, everything has its to take time. Your psyche can pretty much handle anything. And I mean anything, if given enough time to bring it into this world, to reconcile it to your already pre-established beliefs or the way you see the world and the way you see reality. If you give your psyche enough time and your nervous system enough time, you'll be fine. But if you keep pushing, okay, and you're not listening to the universe when it tells you slow the fuck down, and you keep going, then you're going to get slapped down. And I've heard some horror stories about Kundalini and experiences like once you start working on the chakras, it opens up doorways in your psyche, and stuff's there that if you haven't dealt with, like, it forces you. It's like, here it is. I'm going to keep showing you this stuff until you deal with it. And depending on how much you've ran from this other stuff, this shadow side stuff, these fears, these longings, whatever they are, like, it's brought to you to be taken care of. And the Kundalini's there, and it'll help, like, burn stuff away and help you burst through blockages. But if you're forcing it, it's like trying to hold on to a live wire. Now, for whatever reason, at a certain point in my path, which happens to everybody, as you realize you're part of the one, okay? The one, the force, like Star Wars calls it. Like, we're all bits and pieces, specks, right? Even, I think Aleister Crowley said, like, we're stardust, We're bits and pieces of the universe, of the all. And we have our own individuality in these bodies, and, for the time being. And now we're free to explore the universe as a part of itself, but separate from the allness of itself. Okay? Because in the allness, there's no separateness. And so therefore no individuality. and therefore no separate experiences. And so you can't have the experience of the universe outside of yourself, because you're contained totally within itself. But with all this, we have nervous systems and we have energetic systems in these bodies. And if you've ever blown a fuse in your house, you know, things are a little wacky for a while. And I blew some major fuses. So anyway, I don't want to get off topic, but so I blew some major fuses and I needed healing. And I called out after doing my daily rituals and other things, meditations, to the universe. I said, please, I need help. I need healing. I see that I've screwed up. I went too far too fast. I got it. I'm going to slow down. I'm going to lick my wounds. I'm going to come back. And then that night, and I burned some incense. And that night I had a dream, and Odin showed up in the dream. This is probably about close to, I'm dating myself here, but maybe 15 years ago. More than a decade ago. And in the dream, so he showed up, and he said, it's okay to weep for my son. And I felt like he was talking about Thor. And I thought I seen him like in the corner of my eye in the dream. And then at one point, it just, the visions, like, you know how dreams are, they don't make sense logically. Like you're here and then you're there and then you remember this and you remember that. Unless you're lucid dreaming, like a lot of it's like, it's very blurred. So I remember at one point I was taken to, there was like a forest and I saw a unicorn. And I remembered within the dream, in myths, unicorns are, you know, they're very special, they're very rare, and supposedly they can heal diseases and a whole bunch of other things. And I saw the unicorn and I slowly started making my way towards it. And it stood there like it was waiting for me. And I felt like I should reach out my hand and touch the unicorn. So I did. And I touched the unicorn and I felt this energy flow into me. And I woke up the next day and I was like 85% better. Like that. I was like, okay, wow. Thank you, Odin. And then I never pursued anything with him after that for years. I just said thank you and I acknowledged him. I think maybe, you know, I burned some incense for him here and there, but it was, you know, he didn't seem to pursue me. He was just kind of watching me for a bit when he thought I was ready, because Odin is very wise. He's known for his wisdom. So years later, many years later, I'm doing my daily ritual meditations, and I start seeing Odin's name pop into my psyche. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. And I didn't act on it right away. I waited maybe about a week. And I was like, okay, obviously it's not random. Odin wants to talk. Okay, fair enough. So I decided to invite him in. Invite him into my temple. Invite him into my psyche. Because I don't know how it is with a lot of other practitioners, but, you know, if you have certain protections up and walls in your consciousness and stuff, certain entities can try to reach out to talk to you, but depending on your walls and your psychic protections and things, they can't just come in unless you give them permission. Ultimately, no one really can. You are the ultimate authority in your life, at least once you realize your God self, like you are. That's why any entity needs your permission to do things in your life, like ultimately. Like, yeah, people can throw curses at you and things like that, but ultimately, it's your choice to accept those curses, even subconsciously. A lot of people don't know what's going on, and they are, you know, totally asleep when it comes to occult matters. You know, they're just oh, it's bad luck, but they refuse to do anything about it. They refuse to look further. So that's that choice of their making of not doing anything further. Even though part of them is screaming like, you need to investigate, you need to do something. They don't know what to do besides mundane means. But anyway, I don't want to get off topic. So, I invite Odin in to my psyche to talk. I say, okay, Odin, seems like you're reaching out to me. What's going on? And then he comes, and I see him through my mind's eye after I give him the permission. He's very respectable about it. And he comes in this vision, and I see him, and looks like he's got a patch over one eye. And he's got a spear with feathers on it. And he's wearing a necklace with a rune on it. Now, I recognize it as a rune, but I didn't know what the rune did. I didn't really investigate Norse. Up until this point, I seen certain, when I looked for certain occult books and knowledge, I was never drawn to the runes at that point. I was like, I'll investigate them later, but I don't feel it's the right time. And so I didn't know anything about the runes. I didn't know what they represented. And he began speaking to me. And he said, it was another time where I needed a lot of healing, actually. And he was like, you need a lot of healing. This will help rejuvenate you. Here, I want you to have this rune. And he took the necklace with the rune off, and he gave it to me. And he put it around my neck. And I felt energy go into me. And I started feeling much better and like lighthearted. And he was telling me, like, this is connected to the sun and success and a whole bunch of other things that have to do with the goals that I had at the time and goals even now in my life. And sure enough, like later I checked it out with the rune, and everything he was saying was true. The rune's called Sawilo. I don't know, Sawilo. I don't know exactly how to pronounce it Norse-wise, but it's the sun rune, literally. But I didn't know this, so just like, oh, it looks like an S. That's cool. Okay, thanks, Odin. And then he basically told me afterwards that he wanted to be like a father figure, a spiritual father figure for me in my life, because the lack of a father figure that I had in mine. So I don't want to delve too much into my past, but let's just say my father was never around, my real father. There were father figures, I say those terms loosely, that came and went in my life that were connected to my mother, but I wasn't close with them, and they didn't really seem to want to get close to me. So it is what it is. And so that part of the psyche is very important, whether you're a man, woman, whatever you consider yourself. There's certain aspects of the universe that when you get into shadow work, it's very important that those are incorporated within your psyche so that you can have full aspects and use the full aspects of your masculine and your feminine side for different parts, not just in everyday life, but you'll notice that your magical abilities having to do with the masculine and the feminine and manifestation, all these things are intertwined. So you don't want to reject any of those parts of yourself, because then you're not really whole. Just like you don't want to reject the shadow, you don't want to pretend it's not there. It'll cause a lot of problems for you. If not now, down the road. So he basically, said, yeah, I want to be like a father to you. If you allow me, I want to teach you wisdom as a mage, as I would teach a young man, a son of mine. And I was like, all right, let me think about it, because part of me always wanted that. I never had that before, and that was out of my comfort zone. It's something I wanted. It was like, but it was this far off thing that I didn't know how to even conceptualize, really. I didn't even try it, because I never had that bond with a father figure before. I never, and here was a very powerful God saying, hey, I want to adopt you as part of my family and teach you and be there for you and be the father you never had. And part of me, really, that's one of the things I've always wanted. It was still way out of my comfort zone. So I was like, all right, wow, I don't know what to say, Odin. I really appreciate it. I'm going to have to think about it. Okay? He said, yeah, no pressure. I'll come back to you within a week's time. Okay, awesome. Boom, he's gone. Like that. He's just gone. He's like, later, bruh. Doing my meditations and stuff, whatever. About a week later, shows up again. Have you thought about my offer? Yes, I have. Okay, Odin, how do we do this? And he tells me that the initiation, basically I have to be initiated into the Norse current and be recognized officially as part of the family. I'm like, okay. So he's like, so there's going to be a spiritual death that happens. Don't worry. It's not going to be physical. You're going to be all right. It's going to be a shamanic type death. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I've been through certain spiritual deaths before. Some more painful than others. Okay, fine. Sure. To signify leaving your old life behind. And I'm like, okay, so how do we do this? And he said, well, before bed, just I'll come to you and we'll start the process, later in the evening. I'm like, okay. So fast forward to the time it's for me to go to bed. And so I lay down, invite Odin. Odin's there talking with me. And I'm sitting there and I'm waiting. I'm like, what's going on, Odin? I don't feel nothing. And he's like, you're trying to make something happen. Just relax and let it happen. So I'm like, all right, okay. So I'm relaxing because I was all excited, Here's a powerful God like, yeah, I want to be your dad. I want to be a dad for you. I want to teach you stuff. I want to initiate you. I want to teach you about the runes, all sorts of them. Okay, yeah, awesome. So I'm excited. My heart's pounding but my mind was going, and he told me, you need to relax. You're not allowing it to happen. Allow it to happen. So I'm like, okay, Odin. So I listened to him, and within maybe 30 seconds, a minute, I start seeing a vision. And I see myself as if my consciousness is looking down at this warrior in a boat, okay, in a small boat. And he's got armor on. He's got his hands clasped on his chest and the sword's there. And then someone from the shore, there's a group of people from the shore, and someone lights an arrow on fire, looses the arrow, sets it on fire. And then, as soon as it's set on fire, my consciousness goes from outside, looking at it, to inside the body with the fire going around me. And I'm slightly freaking out. And I'm like, but I'm not feeling like I'm burning. I'm not feeling like, I'm suffering. And Odin's coaching me through it. He's like, it's all right. This is just a spiritual death. It's energetic, and it's also, like I said, it's a way to break into the Norse current, to start everything. And for your psyche to process everything that's happening. Because we always need reference points. If we don't have reference points, it's very hard to follow what's going on. We have reference points physically for everything. We have all these measurements. We have measurements of time. We have measurements of distance. We have measurements of space. We have measurements all over. And your mind, your psyche needs certain reference points. Your subconscious is more about symbolism and emotions, but when you're conscious and you're awake and you're trying to put everything together, you need the reference point. So anyway, on fire, burning. It's a memorial for this warrior that died, me. And not only am I in this boat burning, with my consciousness, like, for the moment, stuck in my body, So it's like my spirit's there. I can see what's going on, even though the body's dead. It's not moving at all. And I'm rushing down the river, and I hear a waterfall. I hear water. And I'm like, Odin, am I going towards the waterfall now? Yes, everything's going to be fine. You'll be all right. Trust. Okay. I go over the waterfall. Bottom drops out. And then everything the picture melts away. The feelings of me falling melts away. And there was so much going on. I don't remember the order of everything, but I think the next thing that happened is I saw the Rainbow Bridge. Bifrost, or Bifrost, however you want to pronounce it, leading to Asgard. And Odin was there on Sleipnir, which is this like 8-legged or many-legged horse. And I was there on that same unicorn, apparently, that healed me. And I was dressed in like a green tunic, green and brown tunic, with a hat with like, almost looked like traditional Robin Hood. It had like that type of hat with like a feather in it. It was interesting. I had this cool looking sword. At my side, which at one point Odin gave me a weapon and he gave it a certain name. And I'm not going to say the name because that's a special thing between him and I, and one of the many ways that he rolled out the red carpet for me. So he gave me a weapon with a specific name, okay? I'll just say this. At first he was like, you want a hammer like Thor? I was like, I'm more of a sword guy actually, but I appreciate it. It's like, okay. Well, if you want, this weapon can be either or. Because sometimes you just need to smash shit. I was like, okay, no problem, Odin. Got it, bro. So I will say that. The weapon can morph as I need it. It's really freaking cool. I called upon it actually before, and yes. Anyway. So that part happened. At one point, there was a bunch of presences, like separate individual presences, all around me as I'm lying in my bed. One guy was, he felt really huge, had a big belly on him. I kind of felt the presences, but my mind wasn't open to them in terms of psychically. And then that big guy, who I was able to kind of make out, he took his finger and he touched, and he bent down. His head was coming out. It was coming out past the ceiling, you know. The guy was probably about 8.5, 9 feet tall, you know. And he reached down with one of his huge fingers, and he poked right in between my eyebrows, where my third eye is. And then my eyes opened up, and I seen like more clearly what he looked like and everybody around me. And then Odin was talking, and he was introducing me to them, and he was like, this is my new son now. Respect him. Welcome him. He's always welcome in Asgard. He is a son to me. Treat him with respect. Treat him as you would me. And I was like, oh, wow. 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 Okay. So when I tell you Odin was really just rolling out the red carpet for me, hooking me up, I'm not joking. And there's more. But wait, there's more. Yeah. So at one point, you have the different spheres. You know, so in the Kabbalah, you have the different, Sephiroth. And in the Norse current, there's different spheres. You have like Niflheim and Muspelheim and Svartalfheim and Alfheim and all these different ones. And Odin was taking me briefly for a certain time, going with me to the different spheres, initiating me into those energies. Like when we went to Niflheim, which I think is the realm of ice, I could feel the cold. It was wild. We went to Jotunheim, and it was like there was a giant there. I saw him, and he was huge, and he was stomping around. I could feel the vibrations of him stomping, like as if he was right there. I was right there, and I'm like, oh, crap, Odin. He's like, it's okay. He can't see us. We're safe. Don't worry. You're protected. I'm protecting you. And we went to Muspelheim, and I felt the fire. It was wild. It was so wild. And then at one point, we go to Asgard, and he takes me to this bar. Okay? And we walk in. There's the bartender there, and he's like, all right, Odin, what are you having? The usual? Yeah, sure. And I was like, oh. And he's like, what do you want? And I looked at Odin, I said, I don't know. I was like, what do you suggest, Odin? And he said, have whatever you want. I said, okay. I'll have what he's having. And the bartender looked at me like I had three heads. And he looks back at me, and he looks at Odin, and he's like, you sure? And Odin's like, give the boy what he wants. So he's still got this incredulous look on him, and I'm like, what's going on? I don't understand. I didn't go through, at this point, so I didn't look at all the myths or anything like that. Like, I don't know, I'm flying by the seat of my pants at all this, okay? Like, even Sleipnir. Like, I didn't know who he was. Like, I just saw this many-legged horse that Odin's riding, or, as going through on the Rainbow Bridge with me. Like, I didn't know who it was, and then I looked it up later. I looked up all this stuff later, like, to verify everything like that, and to double check, hey, is this all in my head? Like, Anyway, so he comes back, and there's this big mug. It's a clear glass, so I can see what's in it, and there's this golden, like, mead-looking stuff in it, and there's sparkles in it, and light coming out of it. Odin takes a swig, and he's looking at me like, I think with this expectant look, like, this will be interesting. So I take a swig of it, and it was like sweet, and then I felt this energy go into me, and it felt very chaotic. Things got very chaotic within. I almost felt like at one point I was going to lose my mind. And then I was able to fight it off, or it simmered down. And then I remember feeling like it had something to do, I just intuitively. It was something that enhances your creativity. But it also has its own madness with it. And when I looked up the myths later to verify this stuff, Odin apparently has this type of meat that he subsists on, that he stole from these dwarves, that's called like the meat of poetry or something like that. And it creates like a type of madness, or could create a type of madness, but it also makes you very creative. Kind of reminds me of like the muses from the Greeks or the Romans. There's the myths about the muses where they can inspire mortals, and those mortals, they have tremendous creativity, tremendous ability to tap into ideas and new things and inventions. But over time, if they're not careful and they don't cut the ties with the muse, it can drive them insane. They just get more and more unhinged as different parts of their psyche and I guess brain and knowledge get unlocked. It's like too much for them. They can't handle it as humans. But I'm like, so that happened. And he introduced me to some guys at the bar, like, and they were talking about their old, fights and battles, and they were laughing and having a great time. It was awesome. It was amazing. That was all the stuff with Odin. And then Freya showed up. And I'll leave Freya for another part later, which is shorter, but no less intense and no less of importance. I also will say that since then, also Odin instructed me about the runes. He basically said, okay, you go this far and then come back to me and we'll do more work. And I haven't finished that. I'm almost to the point of where I'm supposed to come back to him with more knowledge for magic and the runes. Oh, and he did, all of a sudden, I did start having in my mind pop up the word Havamal. I'm like, Havamal, what the heck is that? And it just throughout the next few days, I heard the name, or I saw the name in my mind's eye. It kept popping up here and there. So then I looked it up. And you can do research on it yourself if you want to, any that don't believe me. But the Havamal is all about Odin's wisdom for young men and how to carry themselves. So I was like, okay, there's another confirmation. Wow, Odin. Wow, guy. Thank you. Thanks, Dad. So, yeah, Odin is awesome. I also want to say that a lot of times I've asked him for just outright wisdom when I wasn't sure what decision to make. He gave me a lot of wisdom. Sometimes outright, and other times it was more cryptic. Because he has that mysterious side to him. And I think sometimes he because he is a being of knowledge, and one of his main things is he's all about seeking more knowledge. So I think in that part that's how I've been for a while, and I think that's also why maybe he was drawn to work with me that way, besides the fact that I never had a solid father figure that way. So we have things in common that way about our seeking of knowledge, and rather than just giving me the answer all the time, he kind of gives me a little cryptic way or leads me in a certain way, and then I find out through my own knowledge and gnosis. Very cool stuff. So anyone who wants to work with Odin or be a part of the Norse, they are legit. They are really cool. They're not looking for subservience or bowing down. If they accept you like your family, and you call out to them, they can give you wisdom and help you in a lot of different ways. But they also want to teach you to do it yourself. To become better. To become that Einar, to become that warrior. Because in the Norse, there's different types of heavens, right? Depending on the life that you live. Different types of afterlives that you go to. Depending on the life that you live. And an average person who just dies of old age, never accomplishes anything that's considered heroic or lives for their dreams, any stuff like that, where they're just kind of going through the motions, they go to Helheim. And, it's not like they're punished or anything like that, like in the Christian mythos. But if they're really bad and horrible, I think, there's punishment there. But they're like an average person, nothing special. But if you've done done some wild things in your life, lived for your own purpose, lived as a warrior, as someone who follows their dreams, who's taking risks, who's not sitting idly by, then depending on Freya or Odin, depending on your relationship with them, it said that Freya gets first dibs on the battlefield, at least on a physical battlefield in the myths. I think it's more about relationship. If they claim you while you're alive, it's like, nah, he's mine. I work with both of them. But Odin specifically said Einar to me, which is, according to the myths, warriors that go to Valhalla to help fight in Ragnarok, the last war. But yeah, that's all I'll say. It's been over a half hour, but there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff to cover. Next time, I got to talk about Freya and how she's helped me and some miraculous things she's done, and even that night of initiation. Because she came separate. Everybody was there. I think she was there in the circle, but then she did her own thing after my stuff with Odin was done. And it's very special to me and very awesome. So everybody, Enjoy the rest of your day or night, wherever you are. Good magic to you.